Joshua Chamberlain was a colonel in the Civil War. He later went on, was promoted to general. He's a Medal of Honor recipient. And he was credited at Gettysburg as perhaps saving the Union. And years after the Civil War, he was speaking at a dedication, a monument for his soldiers, the 20th Maine. And he talked about this notion how individuals were able to rise above themselves and to come together at a common cause. And trying to explain what causes them to do that. But it's the notion of belonging vitally to something beyond the individual. Now this memorial, when we go to look at it, and we look at these paintings, and we look at these young Marines, forever preserved in their youth. Their aspirations, their dreams are preserved. But you look into their eyes, and you see that they had dreams. Some were going to be career Marines. Some, they'll do their duty, do their service, and come back and become teachers, become accountants, to get married, to raise families. And as we look around us, we see empty seats here. And symbolically, that's them with us. Because around dinner tables, in their homes and their families, there's empty chairs. In church pews at weddings, there's empty chairs. At sporting events, whenever kids are playing, there's empty chairs. And so we're reminded of their sacrifice and their preserved youth, and that's suspended in time.
This is the 10-year anniversary of that 2005 Iraq deployment. We were sent over there, a reserve unit out of Columbus, Ohio, infantry company, with our entire battalion and a few other active duty components over to the northwestern part of Iraq. We were based out of a hydroelectric dam on the Euphrates River, Haditha Dam, and we basically operated up near Syria quite a bit. And we were sent there to provide stability and safety and relieve some pressure from the civilians there that were basically being dominated by the insurgency, coming in from Syria, basically having their own homes taken over and used as bases of operation for this insurgent threat. And we went over there and we stopped that. We successfully stopped that. In the units that were there before us, our deployment, and then a short period of the deployment after us in that area, we stopped that. And we were able to hold successful elections. You know, before we got there, there was no elections there. Everyone was scared to death to come out and make their mark. And when we left there, they weren't scared to do that anymore. I only tell you that because these guys, along with many others, were the cost of that effort. And when you go into the exhibit and you know that this was one unit, one reserve unit from Ohio, sometimes your initial thought is, wow, that must have been just a terrible deployment, just a massacre of a deployment. And that's not the case at all. What you see over here, what you're going to see when we conclude here, and we all get to go over and enjoy the tribute together, you're going to see many young men that were taken from us far too soon, most of which were taken from us in 2 very large roadside bombs. And our casualties mounted very quickly.
These elements together may represent any service member who may leave this mortal world. But one element and one element alone ties these objects to one soldier and makes it a personal reminder of our comrade, the dog tags.
We began traveling in 2008. They unveiled at the Ohio State House Capitol building, the Rotunda, on Memorial Day of 2008, which is exactly where Anita envisioned this tribute being. For whatever reason, when she had that vision, she saw it inside the Rotunda. We left it there for 6 months. It began to travel very long, lengthy stays, 6 months to a year at different museums. mostly around Ohio at first. And then we began to travel more frequently like we do now. And over that process, the focus shifted from the men of Lima Company that are being honored in the tribute paintings to a point now, in my eyes, which is completely more powerful. Those guys, my brothers, my men, are signifying and are representing all of us that have ever served. Some of us were lucky enough to come home. Many of us weren't. And it's an overwhelmingly powerful experience for myself on the road when we have a Korean War veteran or a Vietnam veteran come in and see life-size paintings of my men, recognize me as a veteran, and have lengthy conversations of things that they may not have talked about for 40 plus years. And when they're looking at my men that Anita created, they're not seeing my guys. They're seeing somebody that they served with right alongside them back when they were asked to do the unthinkable. War is ugly, and Anita Miller has created something powerful, something beautiful out of casualties of war.
Once the memorial paintings were completed of these men from Lima Company 325, once they were completed, the biggest mission was getting it in front of as many people as possible. And we're still very young in our history. We're largely unknown so far. So getting it to a brand new community, especially one like Worcester and the surrounding communities here that I've met in person already, that really treat veterans right and want to do something to celebrate and show support of the military. We like communities like this, so we're excited to be here. We'll be here all weekend and hope that many people come out.
Chris Lyons.
Yes, Chris Lyons. We haven't ever been to Shelby yet, but we have plans to in 2016. Getting it around communities anywhere near where these guys are from. Back in 2005 when all this happened, the communities may or may not have done something for him. Most of them do something to recognize him at the high school or what have you. And to bring this, a life-size image of him, to the community or near the community is really special. I mean, we're getting to meet people that knew them personally, and that's a real treat for us, because when we're outside of Ohio, maybe when we're in the West Coast, for instance, nobody knows these guys. They just know what these guys did and who they represent. So it's always fun seeing, especially family and friends directly, is the best.